third-gen Cayenne rockets from 0 to 100 in 4.1 seconds. Has a top speed of 286 kph and can take the entire family on an off-road adventure. Yet remarkably, it's not the Marque's very first purpose-built off-road machine. That honor goes to the Volkstractor, or People's Tractor.
No one knows that Porsche made tractors.
It might be seldom remembered today, but in the early 1930s, before the Porsche car company even exists, the German government sees a need for a better-built tractor. So they enlist the services of young engineer Ferdinand Porsche and task him with solving the problem. The result is what eventually becomes known as the Porsche Super, an air-cooled, diesel-powered agricultural machine.
No one cares that Porsche made tractors because Porsche forged its reputation on sports cars. People don't realize that Porsche didn't start making flat-six rear-engine 911s. They started with four-cylinder 356s. So what our perception of a brand is mostly rooted in what was successful, and what was successful were the sports cars, not the early trucks.
While the sports cars get the glory, it's actually the Cayenne that keeps the lights on.
They were losing money. Then you fast forward about a quarter century and suddenly they're what everyone wants to be. And a lot of that was built on the success of the Cayenne.
The 911's not for everybody, but now we're going to build something for everybody. And it changed everything for the industry. And suddenly, boom, this big, expensive luxury SUV hits. They're making a boatload of money off of them.
Just like the machine, the factory moves with speed.
About 7.5 hours from the body to the test drive.
It's a highly complex build with a variety of different steps.
Inside assembly shop, I put the cable harness in the body, the powertrain with engine, transmission, then put seats, bumpers, all interior, and at the end of the line, the car is assembled, and you can turn the key.
Twisting the key brings joy to drivers, but to keep factory workers feeling good requires some ergonomically friendly tech. So the factory relies on two types of conveyor systems to move partially built machines around. The first is a wood platform.
As an operator, you stay on the wood. It's very pleasant, it's ergonomic. We can move up and down the body to achieve ergonomic position.
The second conveyor system hangs the machine from the top. While some tech moves the machine from station to station, other tools are intended to help move workers themselves.
This is a seat you cannot buy in a supermarket. It is called the Raku seat. And it is designed to improve the ergonomics of the assembly process.
The seat allows a craftsperson to swing inside the vehicle with ease.
We are paying a lot of attention to the way how our workers are working, and we are trying to make the best conditions for them possible on the market.
In an effort to take as much physicality out of the build as possible, the team uses a variety of lifting devices, like the one used to install the panoramic roof.
The modules are pretty heavy, so we are making everything possible for our workers to make the process as ergonomical as possible.
DC workers aren't picking up a whole seat by themselves, 70 pounds worth of seat, and setting it inside a car. They've got a machine that is designed to do one job, and its job is to help you pick up that seat, carry most of the weight of it, and you guide it into place and set it into the vehicle.
While big pieces are installed with lifts, the smaller parts are sorted in a warehouse and placed on trolleys that move with specific vehicles.
You order your car, we know your specifications, we prepare the set in the logistics, we just put it right behind the car, so the worker has all the parts needed specifically for your car right behind the Porsche.
Organizing the parts is extremely complex because there are a whole load of pieces.
There is a very high demand on the logistics process. Approximately 5,000 different parts.
To keep the factory humming, the team uses a just-in-time inventory system that actually owes its existence to some of the brand's darkest hours.
In the early 90s, Porsche wasn't selling a lot of cars. They weren't profitable, and they decided to survive, they had to change. And so they took a Japanese approach where it's just-in-time inventory, modernized fully, and they gained a lot of production efficiencies, and that sort of carried over into the Cayenne.
The lean manufacturing process devised in the early 90s is now a hallmark of the brand.
Each task we do is based on small details, so we have to pay careful attention to everything.
Small details that lead to big pieces like the windshield install.
This is the assembly line where we are putting the windshield.
After windshields, it's time to add the famed Porsche crest.
I am proud that I can work here. I am proud that I can work in this section and on the Porsche.
Today, the Porsche badge is recognized across the world as a signifier of high performance and success. Yet amazingly, it exists thanks to just one man.
Max Hoffmann was a very important man for the Porsche brand. In October 1950, Max Hoffmann imported the first 3 Porsche cars and he gave them to race drivers to make them famous in the American club sports scene.
At the time, the cars are already sexy and sporty, but Hoffmann doesn't think they stand out enough. So he asks Ferry Porsche, then head of the company, to meet him in New York for dinner. It's a meal that will change the course of automotive history.
In 1951, Ferry Porsche traveled to New York City to meet Max Hoffmann, and Max Hoffmann asked him to give his car a kind of badge, a kind of crest, which symbolizes European tradition and quality.
The fabled myth is that the two men share a bottle of wine and in a fit of inspiration draw the crest on a napkin. But that's not actually how it happens. Instead, Ferry heads back to Germany and starts a one-of-a-kind artistic competition at the local university.
The first prize was 1,000 Deutschmarks, which was a lot of money, but none of the ideas convinced Ferry Porsche.
Down on his luck and not liking any of the designs, Ferry turns to an unlikely source for help.
Luckily, there was a Porsche engineer named Franz Xaver Reimspies, who was not only a great engineer, also loved to do cartoons and comics. And he had the idea to combine the coat of arms of the state of Baden-Württemberg together with the symbol of the city of Stuttgart. And over it, he put the name Porsche as a protecting roof.
By the mid-50s, half of all Porsche sales are in America, and the crest becomes a global icon.
The composition was a kind of fantasy crest, and it was patented in 1952. And yeah, from this moment on, it was on the front hoods of all Porsche cars. Today, it's one of the best-known company logos in the world.
The badge gains its fame thanks to history. Yet on the line, the attraction is more personal.
This is also a symbolization that we fulfilled the dream.
I feel good because I have partly worked on it. And it is a beautiful car.
As new Cayennes continue their trek, in another part of the factory, they start to assemble the powertrain.
We are using different engines, with most powerful one being the V8 with approximately 550 horsepower, 700 Newton meters of torque.
The 550 horsepower twin-turbo V8 engine is handcrafted 7 hours away in one of the most moto-romantic cities on Earth.
Stuttgart ist eine Autostadt. Ja? Stuttgart ist die
Stuttgart is a car city. It became big due to vehicle manufacturing. Stuttgart has Zuffenhausen at its core, and Zuffenhausen is the birthplace of Porsche.
This is Zuffenhausen, a tiny suburb outside Stuttgart, Germany, and the ancestral home of Porsche. Around here, motor oil runs in people's veins, and the latest attraction is Porsche's new 8-cylinder engine plant.
We are at Plant 4, where we manufacture V8 engines for the Cayenne.
In 2015, the brand invests over 80 million euros to build the facility.
1 year old, also wir sind 1 Jahr alt.
We have been here for 1 year and have slowly ramped up the V8 production.
Back in the early 1950s, Porsche employed just over 100 people in Zuffenhausen to build cars. How times change. Today, there are over 1,200 craftspeople working in engine manufacturing alone.
Also wir versuchen diesen Motor natürlich so nach dem Porsche-Gedanken.
Of course, we try to manufacture this engine based on the Porsche philosophy. So the lean principle is always important. We try to limit the process on the production line to assembly only, have a good flow, and provision the material only when needed.
Good flow is crucial because every 24 hours, they hand assemble over 200 power plants.
Wir nutzen das erste Mal
We are using a so-called Carrera track for the first time, in which the carrier is transported on the belt itself, individually driven by a motor. This communicates very intelligently with the bolting stations. It is an innovation for us, and I believe it's a novelty worldwide. It takes approximately 6 hours from the first to the last screw.
Just 6 hours creates a lifetime of pride.
I think the employees are very proud to be working here. You can see it on their faces. Of course, they dream themselves of driving one and can put themselves in the shoes of the customer in terms of fulfilling a childhood dream by driving such a V8.
Every 3.5 minutes, a fresh block arrives on the line.
Die Geburt ist die erste Station. Eine Geburt.
The birthplace is the first station where the block and the crankshaft are added.
After the crankshaft is swung into place, connecting rods and pistons are installed. Then the cylinder heads go on.
Da wird der Motor mittlerweile zurecht.
At other stations, the engine comes to life through assembly of the camshaft,
Seine Nockenwellen
chains,
wird sauber eingestellt, dass nachher von den
and where it is finally adjusted to run properly.
The line is 432 meters long and runs in a U-shape until the very end, where finished engines are hoisted off the line and sent to a test cell.
Ich glaube, die Jungs wissen das. Die wissen, dass sie sozusagen eins
I think the guys are aware that they are assembling one of the most important components of a Porsche. And I think that makes them very proud, and it shows. It motivates them to do their best and get the best out of the product.
Completed engines are then shipped nearly 800 kilometers from Porsche's birthplace to perhaps their most important factory, where it'll take another 7.5 hours to bring the Marque's newest off-road machine to life.